freezing out here.
Hey, Matt, I brought you these because I know they're your favorite. Lucky Strikes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, cool. All right. Awesome. Well, Eli, tell me a little bit about yourself, man. Who are you? Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? And what was your childhood like?
I was born in Yale Haven Hospital. I grew up in the shoreline, called Guilford, Connecticut. There wasn't too many Puerto Rican families or black families there. My childhood was a little rough. My mother was an alcoholic. My stepfather was an alcoholic. He was abusive to my mother. And when I was 13, 14 years old, I started going out on my own and causing trouble and stealing and doing shit that I wasn't supposed to be doing. There was a gas station like practically on a diagonal from my house, and I used to hang out there all the time, and I used to see how they used to put the money inside the safe in a little slit. And when the guy used to go out and pump the gas, I'll never forget his name. His name was Brian. When he used to go and pump the gas, I used to take a coat hanger and bend the coat hanger and pull the envelope out and take all the money out, take the money out, leave the receipts, throw the receipts out, keep the money. And I did that for a little while until me, like an idiot, one day I went to school, middle school, and I decided to buy everybody in the cafeteria ice cream. Now, they figured, how is this kid coming up with all this money?
Yeah.
To buy everybody ice cream in the cafeteria. And since they knew that Texaco gas station was close to my house and that it had been robbed, they put two and two together and they blamed me and I got arrested for it.
Oh, wow.
When I was only like 13 years old, I ended up going to court in juvenile. My mom didn't want to have nothing to do with me because she was just fed up. Plus, she was an alcoholic and she didn't have time or the patience she just didn't have time. She just didn't want to put up with any bullshit of mine. Plus, I also had other brothers and sisters that she had to worry about. So me being the black sheep of the family, you could say, was a given. And when anything bad happened, I was the one that always got blamed. It didn't matter what it was or what kind of thing it was. Even if I wasn't there and I was down the street or at my friend's house, I would get blamed for it no matter what. But in that time when I was 13, 14 years old and I got kicked out of my house, I went couch surfing from friend's house to friend's house to friend's house. And at times I even used to sleep in the basement of my mom's house. And she wouldn't know it. Sometimes she would catch me by the furnace because the furnace would be hot. So I would sleep by the furnace with some blankets and she would go down and she'd catch me a few times. And a lot of times, I've been arrested 42 times.
Wow. Yeah.
And most of the time that I got arrested was because my mother called the cops on me for criminal trespass, for me being at the house because I wasn't supposed to be there. So every time she see me, she'd call the cops would come and they'd arrest me and take me down to the jail. They cuff me and stuff me and put me in the cell. And sometimes they would let me go. Other times I would have to wait till the next day to go to court. Sometimes the next day I go to court, they let me go. If not, then I'd have to stay in jail for, depending on what day. If it was a Friday, I'd have to stay the weekend. If it was a Wednesday, sometimes the jails would get too full and they'd let me out. But most of the time, I was released because it's just a stupid charge. It's just criminal trespass. It's just that I was at the house when I wasn't supposed to be there. So that majority of my arrests, 42 times, is for mostly criminal trespass. And then I ended up going to reform school. The judicial system and the school district couldn't put up with me anymore. So they didn't know what to do with me, so they decided to put me in a reform school in Hamden, Connecticut called High Meadows. It's now closed, but it used to be called High Meadows in Hamden. I was there for almost 2 years. While I was there, I met a girl. Her name was Jenna. and she lived in East Hartford. My father lived in West Hartford. So I decided when I got out before she did, so I said, well, you know what? I'm getting out. I'm going to go and stay with my dad. And when you get out, I'll come and see you. She got out. I went to go see her. We were together for a little while, blah, blah, blah. And by that time, I enjoyed the city life, the fastness of it. Because it wasn't like Guilford, where Guilford was slow and it wasn't as fast paced. And many people and drugs and shit that I liked and alcohol, so when I ended up staying, I said, fuck it, I'm going to stay here in Hartford. So I ended up being on the street for many, about 3-4 years. I ended up being on the street until I met Steve. I met Steve-O through a friend of mine named Abel.
Who's Steve-O again?
A friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
And when I met him, I met him through a friend of mine, Abel, and Abel got deported.
To where?
Portugal.
Portugal, okay.
And me and Steven ended up being friends, and we've been friends ever since, for like 20 years. But in that time, I got into trouble. I was in Hartford doing stupid shit, and then I ended up starting to sell drugs because I was smoking a lot of crack. I was smoking a lot of crack, but I didn't have money to pay for it. So what I used to do is I would sell dope. I would sell dope to make my money for the crack.
So so I've known you for a little while.
About 3 years.
Yeah, no, a long time. We've known each other, man. And you told me before when you were getting in trouble out there about getting set up. What happened there?
When I was living in Hartford on Farmington Avenue, I was smoking a lot of crack, and in order for me to support my habit, I was selling dope. So I was getting stacks for $200, and I was selling bundles for $50. So I was making $30 profit off of each bundle.
And for those that don't know, stacks are like it's about 100 bags of heroin, 100 bags of dope.
Yeah, a stack is 100.
100, okay.
So when I used to make my profit, that's how I would support my crack habit. But anyways, in the long run, what happened was this kid, I was selling to this kid for a long time. He used to come from Massachusetts. I guess what happened was on his way back home in Massachusetts, he got pulled over and stopped, and they wanted to know where he was getting his stuff from, and blah, blah, blah. And he ended up snitching on me and saying that he knew where to get it, and he knew my name, where I lived, my apartment, blah, blah, blah. So he did a couple sales. They had me dead to the wall. They had me on video.
They sent it undercover.
Yeah, they had me on video. They had me on video. They had me hand-to-hand sales. They had the money that was tagged, that was marked. And so what happened was one day I had just finished doing the last bit of my crack. I had just gotten out of the shower, just finished doing it. And as soon as I got out of the shower and I went to the kitchen, I put my pipe down on the table. Somebody knocked on the door. I went to the door. When I went to the door, for some reason, I don't know why, but this time I didn't look through the peephole. I always look through the peephole, but for some fucking reason, this time I didn't. So I just opened up the door. When I opened up the door, there was 3 officers there, and one of them had a piece of paper with my picture on it, and looked at me and put the paper next to my face and said, "Yep, that's him."
Uh-oh.
And so they took me and they cuffed me and they stuffed me. And then my roommate had just gone home from work early that morning, and he was in his bedroom sleeping. He had a little bit of marijuana in his room, and when the cops came and started banging on his door, he thought it was me telling him, "Yo, open up the door, blah, blah." And I told him it was the cops. He said, "Stop fucking with me, blah, blah, blah." When the cops told him it was him, it was really them, he came out They said, you got anything? He said, I don't have a little bit of weed, blah, blah, blah. They let him go. I took the blame for everything else. They got me for sales. They got me for distribution, and they had me on $100,000 bond. I ended up going to jail. I got sentenced to 11 years. 11 years suspended after 7, with 4 years parole. When I did some of the 7, I got out. I went to a halfway house. I fucked that up. They packed me up and went back to jail. I got reinstated, went back out to another fucking sober house. I fucked that up. They packed me up, brought me back to jail. Then they let me go again one more time, and I was supposed to go see my parole officer, and I blew her off for like 3 weeks, and I knew I was going to jail. So they gave me an offer that I couldn't refuse, and I asked my lawyer, I said, is he telling me that if I cop out to 18 months, that they will get rid of my parole, my probation, and everything, and I will have nothing once I do the 18 months? And he said, that's correct. And I said, you know what? Give it to me right now. Give it to me right now. So I jumped on that 18 months. I got out in 9. I did 9 months parole, and I was done. And I haven't been really in trouble since then. I have gotten some tickets, drinking in public. I just got a ticket on Thanksgiving for driving too bad for conditions and driving with a suspended license. And I got to go to court February 11th to pay a $100 fine and court costs and fees.
That's not so bad though.
So in reality, I think tomorrow I'm gonna go and pay them, give them $50 towards the 100 and whatever, and then on the 11th I'll go and I'll give them the rest of it, and then my case is done. But basically, I'm still a fuck up, and I still get high.
Ooh. I am your servant. May I light you a cigarette, sir? That's pretty creative, man. One of the things I remember you talking about, you used to work for the carnival, right?
Yeah.
How'd you get involved doing that?
What happened was, I was going up with this girl, my high school sweetheart, in Guilford. And I was with her for almost 5 years.
Yeah.
And the fair had came to Guilford, and from Guilford was going to Durham, Connecticut. When I was in Guilford and the fair was about ready to leave, my girlfriend's grandmother, her aunt, came to my ride, which was the Gravitron. They came to my ride and pleaded with me not to leave her, because she made a mistake. She was drunk. And I said, well, what's going to happen the next time she gets drunk? She's going to cheat on me again?
Yeah.
I said, I don't play that shit.
No, you can't let that slide.
So I told her grandmother and her mother, I said, here, this is hers. It was a blow dryer. I gave them the blow dryer, and I said, I'm out of here. I packed up the shit from Guilford, went to Durham. From Durham, the guy that was owner and operator of the Gravitron, wanted to travel with him down south to Florida. All the way, and on the way there were stops. And I said, fuck it. I said, let's go. I said, I had just broken up with my girlfriend. I had no place to go. I was basically on the street. So I took off with him and ended up going to DC all the way down to Florida. When I got to Florida, I got to Pensacola, Florida. I met this girl named Joni, and I fell madly in love with her. And when it was time for me to leave, I had to leave with my boss and ride. So we went to West Palm Beach. Went to West Palm Beach. I told her, I said, Joni, I'll be back. She said, yeah. That's what they all say, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, I promise you I'll be back. So what happened was we parked the ride in West Palm Beach at a motel. I took I took a bus from there to Pensacola, Florida. I met Joni, and I ended up talking with Joni. And for some reason, I don't know, but I met this kid named Mark, and me and him just hit it off fucking automatically. And he's like, "Where you from?" Blah blah blah. I explained to him I was from Connecticut. This and that. I had no place to live. This and that, and this. He said, "Why don't you come back to my house?" I went back to his house. He introduced me to his mother, his stepfather, his brother, blah blah blah. And I ended up living with them for 3 years. Um, and Joni lived right around the corner from their house. So I ended up living there. I really didn't have a job, so I used to do a lot of scrap metal, sell my plasma, um, sell my plasma and get some money that way. And that's how I basically became a client. As a matter of fact, I have a tattoo that I got down in Savannah, Georgia. Um, that I had to cover up my girlfriend's name because I had her name tattooed on my arm. And it's hard to get into another relationship with somebody when you have another girl's name on your arm. So I got that covered. Um, and from then on, I just kept on going. And when it was time for my ride to leave and to go back up, because he was from Massachusetts, to go up to Massachusetts and park his ride for the winter, I told him I was staying in Pensacola. Um, ended up living in Pensacola for almost 4 years. Um, and for some reason, Connecticut is like a magnet. I can go anywhere. I can go to Maine. I can go to Pennsylvania. I can go to Vermont. But for some reason, I always end up coming back to Connecticut
Yep.
because of I mean, all my family's here, but for some reason, it just seems like I always end up back in fucking Connecticut. And I hate the cold weather. And I grew up here all my life, and I still come back.
Yeah, New England in general, it's got such a homely vibe to it, you know?
Well, Connecticut is my home. It's where everybody I know, everybody I grew up with. Um, my mom was here, my sister, my brothers, my stepfather, everybody I knew was here. So it was hard for me being down in Florida by myself.
Yeah. It is like a magnet, man. You know, I tried it moving out to California, Florida, North Carolina. I've done it myself. And there's just every region of the country, it's got its own special touch, you know, and every person's got their place in this country that they fit in, just like a little puzzle piece, man.
And the thing is, especially when you're born here and you grew up here and your family's here, it's even harder to leave.
So, what would you say your current drug of choice right now is?
It's heroin and coke.
Oh,
Heroin, cocaine, speedball.
H and C. All right, yeah.
Speedball.
Speedball. All right, yeah. Done that many times myself, man.
Huh?
I've done that many times myself.
That's my drug.
I know the feeling. Are you happy with your life? Would you say so far you've had a good life?
So, half and half.
Half and half, yeah.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
Yeah.
That's the way life is. It's turbulent. It's up and down. It's kind of like you're in a plane. You know, you go up and sometimes you hit a little bit of turbulence and your life rocks a little until you get it back on track. And sometimes you get it back on track, and when you land, doesn't mean that you land perfectly, because sometimes you land and you land on your face.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that plenty of times. But you just have to scrape your fucking pants and your boots and you fucking get back up and try and make the best of what your situation. And it doesn't mean that it always works. And it doesn't mean that it turns out to be good. Sometimes it turns out to be worse than what you thought it was.
Yeah. If I gave you one wish, anything in your life that you could ever have, man, just one wish, anything in the world, what would it be?
As of right now,
Anything, man. Anytime.
get off of dope.
Yeah.
Cause it's a killer. It's a bitch.
What would you say to any young kids out there that are partying a little too hard? Because we got a real bad opioid epidemic in this country right now. A lot of people,
It's
you know,
not worth it.
it's not worth it.
It's fucking killing everybody. And if there was one wish I could have right now, like a magic wand, would be just to go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and I wouldn't be sick. I wouldn't have to worry about going anywhere to look for anything.
Eli, thanks for sitting down with me, man.
All right.
I wish you a lot of luck.